This project has been at least 2 months. Tonight, I'm going to fire these up. I'm going to stick them in the fire. Hello and welcome to the channel. My name's Todd. I thought in this video I'd try making some canopic jars. Now I posted a video a while back about some of the props that I had made for the Halloween party that Aaron had a few years ago, in which Egyptian was the theme. Now in that video I showed you the mummy I made, the sarcophagus, and of course the canopic jars. Now the canopic jars that I made back then, I made them using plastic bottles, and for the effigy, or for the top of the lid, I made that out of paper mache. But this time what I want to do is I still want to use the plastic bottle for the base, but for the effigy, for the head of the canopic jar, I want to use clay. Now I've got a bunch of clay that my daughter got from a ceramics class that she took about 1.5 years ago. So that's what I'm going to use. And the clay, it's still pliable, but I need to use it, I feel, fairly quickly because it's starting to dry out. And I want to make sure that I start this project before it's no good. So that's what I'm going to do. And I imagine it's going to be like a 4-step process, where the first step will be to create the effigy, and then the second step will be to let it dry, let it get bone dry. The third step will be to fire it. Now, how I plan to do that is, I think I'm just going to do it on the fire pit that I have, or the barbecue, and just heat it up really good, and then stick the clay pieces in there and just fire it, because I don't have access to a kiln. So I'm going to try that and see how it works. And then the final step will be to attach the effigy, the clay head, to the bottle and then decorate it. So that's the plan. Now, I'm not sure how it's going to turn out, but I'm going to give it a try. Alright, so before I even begin working the clay or shaping it, what I did was I went online, Googled canopic jars, and set it to images, and I pulled up some different images of canopic jars. And I printed them off to use as a reference. So as you can see, various shapes. Now I'm not exactly sure what these effigies are called, the correct terms, but I'm going to try to maybe make some of the easier ones and see how it goes. As far as the type of tools that I have, or what I'm going to use, I'm basically going to use my hands. And I've got some wood skewers that I'm going to use to maybe press in and kind of shape the clay to make some decorations in. And then of course I've got some water for my hands to maybe moisten the clay a little bit. Now I do have a bad thumb, so I'm not sure how it's going to work, but I'm going to give it a try and do my best. I'm going to use this plastic bottle, and I've got several of these that I'm going to use for the base of the canopic jars. Even got some different sizes, as you can see. And these are just old plastic bottles, and you can use anything that you think might work. Now, these are going to be light, and I imagine with the clay on here, they're going to be a little top heavy. So what I'll have to do when I'm done and when I put it all together is probably put some kind of a weight in here so they don't tip over. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the clay, and I'm going to kind of mold it, the base of it, so that it'll fit on this particular plastic container. We're just going to go to work here and see what happens. I guess if it works, I'll say, wow, that was pretty neat. I need to do that again. If not, at least we can say we tried. I'm not sure what effigy I'm going to try first. On here, it looks like they have like a baboon and maybe a hawk, and then perhaps a pharaoh, and then maybe like a cat. So I guess maybe I'll try one of those. And this is a good one too here because it kind of gives you the profile, which will probably help you a little bit more as making the shape of it. So what I'm doing here is I'm just kind of getting a basic shape on top of the plastic bottle here, the lid, of one of these designs that I want to do. And then once I get the basic shape, I'll start carving away at this clay so I can kind of lighten it up a little bit and get the desired effigy that I want. Probably going to pick out an easy one. In fact, I'm not sure, but I might even try to hollow some of this out if it's kind of too thick and heavy when I get done with it. Just kind of take this off the lid and maybe dig some of it out of the inside there to lighten it up some. And make it easier so that when I do try to dry it out and fire it up, it doesn't take forever and crack on me. I got a funny feeling this is going to be a rather lengthy process. And I am by no means a sculptor or an artist. I think I'm going to do a cat. At least I think that's what it is. This is actually kind of fun. I think I made the face a little too pointy, like that of a human, so I'm going to kind of make it a little more rounded. I guess this is one of these things that you could probably spend hours and days on getting it just the way you want it, but I'm not sure I'm going to do that. After all, if I use it for a Halloween party, it's probably going to be dark and dingy at the party, so there's not going to be a lot of light. What do they call that when you put a little water on a piece of clay, like slip? Maybe. I'm just going through now and smoothing it. I guess the hard part will be trying to get this clay head off here so I can fire it up and dry it out. I guess you could just let it like dry out naturally and be bone dry. I'm not sure how that'd work. That'd probably maybe crack on you eventually. Not too bad. I think I'll try to remove this off of the top here now. Not sure how that's going to work. Alright, the problem is these containers have a little lock on them, so you got to press in on them to release them. So when I do that, I'm probably going to mess it up a little bit, but I'll have to go back and rework it. You can see that's the inside with the lid in there. So I guess we'll try to dig it out. Alright, got the lid off. Did do a little damage to it, but I guess I'll go back and fix that. So I guess that's a lesson. I guess the next one I do, I'll do a little bit different. But it's clay, so it's very forgivable. At least while it's workable. And I guess maybe you don't even really need the lid. I kind of like that a little better. I went ahead and used up the rest of the clay. Here we have what I'm calling a cat, a pharaoh, and some type of bird of prey. Now, the next step is to completely let these dry so that they're bone dry before I go on to step 3, which is firing them. I'm not sure how long that's going to take. I'll let you know. Now, I'm sure some of you may be able to do a better job at modeling the clay, but for my purposes I think they'll work just fine, and I'm anxious to see how they dry and then how they fire. Well, it's been about 4 weeks and I feel like I just crawled out of a tomb myself. I've been sanding in here and there's dust everywhere and my face is probably filthy, but these have been drying in the studio here for almost a month, and it's been pretty hot in here. We've had some hot weather. I believe these are pretty well bone dry. Had a little mishap here on my cat, and that happened just today, so I thought I need to finish this video up before I break all of them. I had it over there on the desk and or the workbench there, and I knocked it over and broke the ears. So now it looks really old. But I still have the ears, so I'm not sure if I'm going to glue them back on or just leave them off. Because to be honest with you, if I put them back on, they'll probably break off again. This way it'll really look old and kind of cool, like it's been around for a long time. But we'll deal with that later. We'll decide what we want to do. So this is my pharaoh, which kind of looks like maybe a Elvis with a goatee, but I think once I paint it and put some of the pharaoh decorations on it to make it kind of look like a pharaoh, it'll look a lot better. And of course this one is the bird of prey, and this one is my cat without the ears. Now the tops of these do come off, so when I do go to bake them in the fire, I will just put the clay heads in there. And then once they're baked and hardened, then I can take and glue these to the bottles. So the next step will be to build a fire, and then I'm going to set these in the fire and bake them. Not sure how that's going to turn out, but we will see. And then I will take and clean these bottles up, and I'll probably put like sand in here to give a little weight, and then I'll paint the whole thing. But that'll be another step and another day. This project has been at least 2 months. Tonight I'm going to fire these up, going to stick them in the fire and let them bake off. We'll see how it turns out. This is where I cut into the video and tell you that my canopic jar build was a failure. And you'll see what I'm talking about here later in the video. But basically, what I wanted to do was stay up well into the evening with the fire out back and really kind of bake these ceramic tops for a long time, and so that they would get nice and hard and set up and be solid. Well, that didn't work. I fell asleep, and I didn't bake them nearly as long as I wanted to. In fact, not very long at all. And what happened was it rained the next morning, and well, you'll see what happened to the clay tops later on in the video. Now hopefully you enjoyed this little video here. If you did, if you like this type of content, consider subscribing to the channel. I think next time when I make the canopic jars, which I will again, I think I'll go back to the original way that I made them, and that is with paper mache. So I'll do a video about that. But until then, talk to you later.